Hello and welcome to the Indie Comics Club. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, creator of Pizza Boys. That's Pizza Boys with a Z, with co-host, as always.
It's me, your boy, Craig Johnson, creator of Project Savior. How's it going?
That's doing good. We're coming back at you.
I managed to do an intro in English and not fall to pieces.
Just peter off like, a car running out of gasoline. I thought we were going to make it, but now we got to coast the rest of the way, fellas.
I was pretty tired last week. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, sometimes you get like one of those like tired podcasts and so on. And it can either kind of run into a couple things. Either you can become kind of like mumble mouth and you just start tripping over your own words and and nobody understands what you're really saying.
Yep.
Or then you get to the goofy point of where you get a little too tired, but then you get kind of goofy, so then almost you're kind of having fun. Like that always sometimes makes for a good time period of like writing. I haven't done it in a long time, but I remember when we would make scripts and stuff back in like high school and so around that time period. It'd be that thing where like, you'd be staying up till like 2 a.m. and then all of a sudden you'd start getting some really kind of goofy, weird ideas, but sometimes that would turn out to be good material.
That's so true.
So
what's been going on this week?
Yeah, this week's just been another week of just kind of trucking along on Pizza Boys. I think I got like 4 pages left. I'm getting there at the end of Pizza Boys issue 12. So making that progress, getting ready to get that book going. You know how that kind of drill goes and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. I've been experimenting this week and doing a lot of learning.
I saw that you were doing some animation even.
Did you see the finished thing?
I don't think I saw the finished thing. I only saw like the trial thing where it was kind of like, skipping frames.
There you go. I added some music and some special effects. Well, one special effect. Its own. Like, the actual animation itself was 3 seconds long.
It's coming in loud and clear. Oh, that was pretty sick. He took off flying and everything like that, like a rocket ship.
Yeah. Like, when I was doing it, the test one I did, it was super slow.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, how do I make him go faster? So I cut out like 3 frames, added another one, moved them all the way up, and then just blurred them.
Yeah.
Like, just blurred it all the way down, and then just adding the blur, just make it look like he took off like a shot, and I was like, yeah, that'll do.
It's weird how in animation, how just sometimes it's the certain special effects / almost having the right amount of frames.
Hard. Like, it's so, like, I'm doing it on an iPad.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm doing it on Procreate, right? Because it seems to be the lesser of the demons.
Mm-hmm.
But I've literally I spent the other day, just all day, trying to learn animation. Like, I knew it was hard anyway.
Yeah.
But I think I underestimated just how hard it was.
Well,
but I was kind of dead to do it. Like, a friend was like, a day to animate your comic. And I was like, don't dare me. Because that just means I have to do it.
Well, you got to do it now once you dare. Did he double dog dare you?
Pretty much. So I don't think I can do like a full animated episode because I think that's unrealistic.
It's kind of unrealistic for one person to do.
Yeah, that would probably take me decades.
Yeah, unless that was 100% your thing. Yeah, that's a lot to ask.
I kind of have an idea. My goal is for a 30-second kind of animated intro, and use that to bring people in, and maybe use it, and maybe get animators and like creators and stuff, and maybe make it into something. But just aim for some sort of intro which like covers the basics, like your traditional animated intro. Like, you remember, well, obviously Batman the Animated Series' intro.
Yeah,
but
X-Men, Spider-Man.
Yeah, so like the intros like that where it shows off the main character, shows off the villains, bit action, bit of everything else. Just like 30 seconds.
Yep.
So 2 days.
Gotta have a sweet theme song.
Well, I have a theme tune.
Uh-huh.
But I'm thinking of possibly going back to the person who I commissioned to do it and jazzing it up a bit.
It's like, could you add some lyrics over it and make it sound real epic?
Nah, I don't like lyrics.
You don't
Like,
want you don't
like I
want it to be
don't.
like the
I don't.
Transformers, or you don't want it to be like Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, that's as much as the Transformers theme was amazing and it's part of my childhood. It's not my first choice.
Uh huh.
Like I like my. Didn't get us wrong. I like my theme. Like I like how it came out.
Yeah, I know it's cool.
But I don't know. I want it faster. I want 80 synth in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to be. I want a cross between Spider-Man the animated series and X-Men, like that sort of like just heart pumping shit.
Yeah,
Uh,
almost like
I just think that'd be like. I think when I first did it, I was because when they were asking, like I gave them the comics and I was like, look, I want something along the lines of Danny Elfman's Batman theme, but throw in some John Williams optimistic Superman.
mm-hmm.
And we kind of got like a healthy blend of it going on. But
Yeah.
at first it was all stringy, and I was like, it was kind of like it was like someone just plucking a string on a guitar, and I was like, I hate that. Can you change that, please? But the way it came out, I love how it came out. I want a 30-second just animated theme intro. And I'm currently storyboarding in my head how I want the intro to go. Then there's also the thing of actually figuring out how it works. I think I know how to do it.
Uh-huh.
I just have to do each scene individually.
Yeah.
And then just put it together.
Well, it's that classic thing of like almost like same thing of like movie making, where if you sort of break down each individual shot, like when you watch, even like you can watch a Steven Spielberg movie, and if you break down each individual shot and look at it, like 90% of them, if you only look at them as that one shot, you kind of go like, okay, I could do that. I can do that. And that's possible too. It's like when you kind of see it as a whole, it seems like it's overwhelming. But when you break it down, you're like, okay, that's how you would animate this. That's how you get that there. Use some kind of effects here. Use some other little tactics and so on. And then I think the idea of having a theme is really cool. One of the projects that I want to do kind of once I finish up issue 12 and whatnot on Pizza Boys is I've been thinking about taking almost like in the very first Pizza Boys, like really like the first page or two, and just turning that into like a 30-second animated segment. And just also to be kind of once again like, hey, here's a little like promo video, kind of share the comic and whatnot. And I'm almost even thinking of just doing it. I'm just gonna rotoscope it. I think I'm just gonna film it or video it, and then sort of draw over the top of it to make the animation just easier to go with, and just kind of overact it so that the animation works. Because if you kind of if you give it like, you would never do this in actual like live action, but if you kind of gave it sort of theater acting where it was a little bit more over the top and kind of gave it even almost that more intense feeling, when you drew it, it would probably look more normal than if you kind of did it still. It would almost look uncanny.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's kind of my thing. I want to start making a little bit more animation stuff because the whole like last 12 issues or so of doing Pizza Boys, I've only done just a little teeny bit of animation here and there, and that was what I did for like 6 years prior. Now, most of the time I did animation. Right. I didn't do it like frame by frame animation. I went with more kind of like, it's almost like you create like a puppet character, kind of South Park style. That's the best way to kind of that, or even how Archer sort of looks. And then once you have your sort of puppet character, you just kind of move it around and you change your arms and the mouth flaps and the head moves and all that kind of, you have like light motion, but it's just enough to kind of, give it the feel of animation and so on.
Right. I mean, I guess that would also be an option. I don't know why, I just kind of thought it would be interesting to tackle like frame by frame animation.
Mm-hmm.
So like it took us 2 days to get 3 seconds. To be fair, that was it putting it out at 30 frames.
Oh yeah, when you do it, you want to do it at 12 frames if you're gonna do frame by frame.
So if I dropped it down to like 12 frames, it would have come out longer. But because I wanted it to look smooth, I put it out at 30. Like I think it came out fine for 30.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong there. You're just going to end up drawing a lot more because 12 frames, and you double it. So it's like you have 12 frames, but you technically double it so that it turns out to be 24 frames. But
Well,
the way that
the
that
way
sort of
the
works, that's like what Batman the Animated Series is and so on is like that.
so the way Procreate works is so you start off with so I finally figured out how to add a background, which was nice.
Uh-huh.
So I couldn't figure out how to put a background in for love nor money. So your first layer is your background,
Mhm.
and you can set that as background, so it can't be drawn on top, like drawn,
Yeah,
like
it's
manipulated
it
while you're doing the frames.
it's pretty much
So it's
locked in there.
it's just static. Then you start with your first layer, which is your first step. So
Mhm.
I started with the outline of the animated version of my character because I was like, there's no way I can do the normal version of him
No.
in animated form because it would just be overcomplicated and look weird. So I kind of like mashed together like my favorite animated stuff to try to like get a sense of like how to draw an animated character. So I got the frame of it,
Mhm.
and I just had him stood there. And then the next one, I moved his arms onto so like his hands were on his hips. I just wanted to see if I can do it.
Mhm.
But what you can do is if you tap that frame, you can hold it,
Uh-huh.
and what it does is it just fills the hold with the same frame, so you're not drawing the same thing
So
like 12 times. You can just hold it for 12, so it just copies it 12 times.
yeah, just copy paste it over.
So it just gives you a couple of seconds of him like that. Then I did the arms like on his hips, held that. I tried to do him winking to start with, but I forgot to reopen his eye.
Uh-huh.
So he just had one eye closed and then he shuts the other eye, and I was like, I don't know why I did that. But because I was sort of getting used to it, I didn't want to get too much into the movement because I was like, I have no idea how to do it.
Yeah.
So that's when I started doing like the sort of like Dragon Ball Z-esque like powering up.
Mhm.
He doesn't do that in the comic, but I was like, I'm just going to test it.
Yeah, yeah, well
So I
that's
started doing like the lines coming out, and I was like, right, okay. So like I was copying and pasting them, like with the circle closest to him, then medium, then far away, then copy and paste again. And then I had his eyes reopen, and then I tried to do the flying away. And
Mhm.
then I went and I was like, okay, so that's the test one. And then I started going in and adding like the particle effects. And then I went in and added the lightning effects. And then I colored it.
Mhm.
Oh man, it's the coloring that gets you because you've got to color every single frame.
Yep. Yep. That's the those are like the small things that get you. Is that's why like I almost kind of like see at least the Pizza Boys I can get away with just doing black and white. Oh no. Oh no, something's calling in.
Yeah, that was my bad.
but no, that's a good test, good practice to kind of go with. I'm gonna use these guys as example too. You know the Mashbone and Grifty guys, they've always had kind of cool little like miniature promo animations that they've done for their characters, you know, that kind of stack it along with their kind of advertising schemes and so on like that. And they always look really neat, and they're just kind of quick and to the point, like just this tad bit of animation, but it just gives that extra bit of life. And I think they almost kind of take it where they'll take a certain panel scene out and just kind of animate it, you know, like there was, you know, a 5-second movement on there or something.
Uh-huh. It's it's something I'm learning. I'm getting there. And then what else? Oh, then I was doing that whole logo thing,
Uh-huh.
which I I hooked you and Derek up with.
Yeah, I know. Those logos came out real cool.
That was another thing I'd spent the whole day like I seen it. Like I seen a guy go, "Oh, this is what you can do to your logo," and I was like, "Oh, that'd be so cool to do." So I spent the afternoon trying to figure out how to do it, and then I did it with mine, and I was like, I know how to do this now. I wonder if anyone needs this.
Yeah, well, and that's a good one just to kind of practice on anyways and just kind of figure because that's how like so many of those things are. It's like once you spend that little bit of time learning it, you kind of go, okay, that's actually not that hard to do, and then it looks real sweet, and then just
Yeah,
kind of ups the quality even just a bit on you know your work.
yeah. So yours was it was the it was the easier one, but also you had the most layers.
Uh-huh.
Because your like for some reason yours came through as a PNG, Derek's didn't.
Oh, I sent mine as a PNG, so that might have been the reason.
Well, he said, well, to be fair, his looked like they should have been, but they just came out weird. So
Uh-huh.
I had to like manipulate them, whereas yours just was. I had to drop out all your white.
Oh, okay. Might have just had that in there. I couldn't remember because I kind of just looked when you're like, "Hey, send me a logo." I was like, here's one right here."
So the way it picks it up is if it looks for like anything without a sort of background color.
Uh-huh.
So if I'd left yours the way it was, it would have just done outside of it.
Yeah.
So I had to drop out all the color from everywhere. That way, it picked up the actual pizza in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and then each letter. But I put the glow on that much that you couldn't see the pizza getting drawn.
Yeah.
But I that'll be cool when you start putting them out.
I know. So I'm looking forward to get download that and then kind of attach that there. But yeah, that's kind of all part of like once I finish up the issue is kind of just going on some alternative media marketing type stuff, putting together
Mhm.
some animations, putting together some kind of videos and so on, and kind of just taking the time to focus on the advertising, focus on the marketing, because I just know of myself, I'm not really that good at doing two things at once almost. It's either like I'm either gonna draw the book or I'm gonna
Yeah,
work on something else. But if I kind of do that thing where it's like, okay, let's go work on the book and then do a little bit of advertising, it's like I've made that plan in my mind many a times and it never seems to work out. It's always just next thing you know, the only thing I'm doing is just drawing the book and that's it.
yeah, yeah. I know that pain.
So,
It's hard to multitask sometimes. You get too focused on one side of it,
yeah.
you completely neglect another.
Yep.
It's like when I go into full marketing mode, I forget about the fact that I actually have to draw the damn thing,
Yeah, exactly.
and I'm like, ah, crap. Like I wish I like if I could like just duplicate myself, it'd be great. I'd have like a full team,
I
but I
feel
feel like at one point or another, every single one of us would stop at the same time, and I'd be like, ah, damn it.
well, I do feel that's like every entrepreneur's like, thing is like if I could just duplicate myself, imagine I mean, I would not have to like explain anything. I would already know what was going on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
precisely.
I could
Like
get
I could like, and then I could make a deal with them where it's like, no, right? So we all just tackle a page each. This shit will be done in no time.
Mhm.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, you do the marketing for Twitter, you do Instagram, you do TikTok, you do Facebook.
Yep.
Sorted.
Well, it's sort of like sometimes in the back of my mind too, I always kind of get these certain ideas and whatnot of like, what would it be like to sort of have kind of like, a nice team that kind of all sort of work together, and you had, a guy or gal that could pretty much, tackle different aspects of it. Like, almost like one of those ones. I picture it like almost if you walked to the office like you're Humphrey Bogart. And of course, I know I'm going for like an old fashioned, but you go in there and, you got the comic book, maybe you're doing the main writing, you're doing the main drawing, but then you got, hey, I got this person over here that does the inking for me. I got this person over here that does marketing and advertising for me. I have another person, almost like a secretary, that kind of keeps up on all like the emails and social media and that kind of aspect of it and whatnot. And you could just get it real done. Or I've even thought too is like say like you had a handful of us. Like say there was like I know we're completely different opposites of the world, but let's just say we lived next to each other and we all kind of shared
Uh-huh.
an office and there was like maybe 3, 4, or 5 different kind of comic book creators in there. Well, what if you sort of shared kind of like a marketing and social media kind of team that was sort of their job was to take our books and they kind of focused on that part so that we could kind of sit back, create, and kind of work on that part of it all. In a sense, I
That's
guess like a
true.
promoter or a publicist or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
There's all those kind of ideas you sort of get, or it's like I'm always thinking about like how can I sort of speed up my workflow, and I think like kind of a very in the future type of idea that I'd like to do at some point because I think this is the main thing that would actually make it so I could do a lot more books, in a year and so on, is if I could almost just have somebody who could ink for me because I feel that's the part that I always get the slowest on, and that's always kind of the part where I feel like if there is a burnout period, it sometimes kind of happens by the time you're at the inking point because I think
See, I love ink and me. I think it's therapeutic as fuck.
see, maybe you. I don't know. To me, I guess maybe because by the time I get there, it's like I've already thought about this story for a long time, wrote it out, drew it out, put the lettering in and all the
I
words, and then by this point, it's kind of like okay, now I'm just sort of retracing my steps, almost in a
See,
sense.
I like seeing it because I use the ink to sort of tighten everything up as well.
Hmm.
And I like seeing it go from pencil to ink. Like, yeah, I don't know if it's just me, but the ink just looks sharper and just like crisp.
Oh yeah,
Like, I don't know why. I just much prefer. I love ink in me.
yeah.
I'm probably like, to be fair, if you looked at it, I'm probably shit, but I really enjoy doing it.
No, no.
The thing I hate doing is lettering.
Uh
Like, it just hurts my soul.
huh.
Like, my soul aches, but I'm getting the hang of it. Because once you get into a rhythm, you kind of don't think about it anymore, and you're just blasting through.
Hmm.
Um, but no, I love ink and me. I thoroughly enjoy it.
I mean, I totally agree. What you mean is that like once you see the ink kind of come together, it starts really making the whole images pop. The other one for me is
Yeah.
actually when I actually once I put together the lettering and the word bubbles and the panels and all that kind of stuff, which I do about the dead center of making the comic book, that to me is always that point where it's like now it's starting to look like a comic book. I don't know what it is. It's like without the word bubbles and so on, it's almost just has these like scratch drawings kind of, here and there willy nilly. But once I see the word bubbles and so on, I'm like, okay, now it's starting to look like it's coming together and whatnot. And then the inking comes in and finishes it off. And it's just one of those ones. I don't know. It's just like the ink. It's not that I dislike it or anything like that, but I know that's my slowest part. It takes me the
I
longest.
keep forgetting, like, you skip a step because you don't have to color it.
I don't. Well, this is what I say is my kind of coloring though is the toning. I mean, it's not the exact same thing, but like toning kind of
Yeah, but I
does.
bet the toning in to exaggerate a little bit, it probably takes 5 minutes compared to what it takes to color it.
You know,
Like coloring, bear in mind, I color it and then turn it black and white
yeah, exactly. You do
just for
it.
shits and giggles.
Well, I will say though, because you say that, and it's like I used to do that a lot of the times back in the day when I would do. I felt black and white stuff for toning reasons actually comes out really good if you color it first and then you convert it back on over because it's like,
I
oh,
just
the colors look
it
totally
feels
right
like
in black and white.
yeah, it. I know it probably doesn't, right? Because gray is gray, but I feel like when it goes from color to like gray tone,
Hmm.
like it keeps the sort of like texture of it. I know that doesn't make any sense, but
Yeah,
like you know that it looks right.
well,
Because if
it's
you
like
just tried to eyeball it and went right, so that's like this shade of gray, and that's that shade of gray, it wouldn't look right.
well, there's that thing too that like the percentage of gray tones that you have, each one sort of represents what the color looks like in real life. Like I can't remember off the top of my head, but I one of my drawing books, it's nice because it has a section in there. It says that green is this percentage, red is this percentage, blue is this, and so on. And it
Yeah.
really is true though because it's like you could make an object in a sense look green by getting the right tone of gray in there. And that's where I
Right.
actually think that almost in the black and white one, as I said, it feels like by skipping the coloring that would almost make it there. But I don't know. Sometimes I do say that I don't think because just from coloring, because all my animations and stuff were always in color. It was only until I did Pizza Boys that I started doing things in black and white. But I almost think that kind of getting those tones down and so on. Sometimes there's those things in there that almost take an extra time in black and white. Where like if it was color, I know for a fact that like I'm gonna use kind of this example. I don't know if you ever remember watching Ren and Stimpy or anything like that, but this is what I always think about: is they would a lot of times use straight, pure colored backgrounds to kind of emphasize, a feeling. Like whether if one was
Right.
angry, it'd
Yeah.
be red, or if there was sadness, they'd throw blue and things like that. That's like one of those things that you can't really do in a black and white comic, where you can't just go like. You see it all the time. It doesn't matter if it's Batman or Spider-Man or anything like that. They'll use those all the time where it's like, oh, somebody's mad, throw in a gradient of red. And it's just like,
Yeah.
that would be easier for me to do than having to put in there like some extra lines or certain sometimes some of those background things. I feel like god, if I could just paint bucket in a couple colors, that would almost be easier. Like, because I always said if I was going to color Pizza Boys, granted it would take longer to do that, but I don't think it would take as long, because I'd almost kind of minus out the toning parts and then switch that around to colorizing it. And so I don't know, it's one of those kind of weird things because whenever I do, because I think the last time I did a color drawing, this goes to show how long it was in Derek's Maroon Volume 3, because I just went and I do a like super bright color because I just go like I don't get to do color very often, so I'm gonna go hardcore on it.
I haven't seen your thing for that.
Oh, whenever you grab Derek's book or so, and I should just send it over to you right now. But it's
Did you see mine? I can't believe all three of us managed to get one in.
I did mine a long while ago, so I don't know if I've seen yours yet. But like mine, literally, it's like I did it like almost kind of like a Corona beer ad, where like they're sitting like at the beach, but instead the Maroon's sitting there on a beach with his arms crossed, and he's got like almost like a sort of old-fashioned, it's not really a fold-out chair, but just like a wooden chair. And off in the distance in the water, there's this pirate ship blowing up and fire and destruction happening. Like, so like we just got to like the tail end of what might have happened there, and that's what this thing is. So, I'm seeing yours right now. I'm gonna send mine over to you as we're talking about pictures, but we can describe it. Oh, here it is.
So what I was going for, I don't know why, I wanted to do it like sort of He-Man reference.
Uh-huh.
But I couldn't tell you why. I just had it in my head of him there with his hatchet, just being like, I have the goddamn power.
Uh-huh.
Because, because it glows red hot, and I thought, well, I kind of want to do a He-Man thing where he's using that to sort of fight off the forces of darkness. So that's why I have like most of the pit. It's like darkness is closing in, and he's the light pushing it back, and I don't know why.
Well, it looks kind of cool because you got
I just went with it.
The explosion of light. He's standing on top of these skulls and whatnot. There's these angry branches that almost look like hands coming up at him.
Stand on skulls, like, yeah.
You got the bats flying in the background and so on. And even
there's bats, yeah.
Those little kind of, they look like circular, kind of almost like orbs kind of circling around him, almost whether that be, magic or spirits.
I was just kind of going for like a darkness is flooding in, like, when your vision's starting to go.
Yeah, it's almost like you're almost if the enemy right there who was slain or just about ready to be slain. It almost has that look that like it's from a first person's perspective, and those trees are almost like witches like hands and whatnot, and they're kind of looking up as the Maroons are about ready to do this final strike, almost like a Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. He's reached it up towards the heavens. Now it's ready to bring forth the axe down.
I think that's when I think that was around the time I figured out the whole light thing. And getting like the light reflecting off his coat and stuff. Like, I think that was when I finally like leveled up and figured out how to do that.
Well, that's always kind of the thing, is that once you start learning just the little like highlights and shadows and all those little special features, kind of touches you can do to it, it's like those small things can literally make an image really pop.
Yeah.
It's even that kind of thing, like, once again, you look at the tree branch hand-looking things, the only real color on them is just on the edges where you can see
the tree hand branch. Look, they're hands. They're demon hands.
Oh, is that what they are? they look like that, or they look like...
Christ.
Well, I'm looking at it as the small little picture on there. I guess I could click it bigger, but...
Yeah, you could... Why are you not just clicking it?
Oh, I don't know. I was watching mine upload at the same time, so...
I was going to say yours is dark. No wonder you sound robotic if you're trying to your internet's terrible.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, I think I'm getting a good download speed, but I think for some reason my uploads been a little bit slow.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't matter.
I reset mine and everything before we started. I was like, nope, I'm not being blamed for it this week.
Yeah, I don't know what it was because I did restart it, but that's okay. Well, actually, it says yours is shameful too, but... It's okay. It's okay. The recording should come out all fine and dandy.
Oh, that's all right then.
It doesn't matter about that.
Go into some indie comics then, because I think, we'll come back to your picture if it ever comes through.
It looks like it should be there any momentary. Of course, I picked the largest version I have of it because I think I made sure I'm like, here, Derek, have a giant, huge picture just in case you need it for printing sakes and whatnot. But speaking of which, though, everybody should go out and pick up the Maroon Volume 3. Not only can you get it on Amazon, on the Kindle, it's probably coming up on Comixology. You never know how long those always seem to take. But then I also know he's got it on Indie Planet with the physical copy, which I know I got to get myself soon. It's one of those ones. It's like Any moment, got to add that bad boy to my collection and whatnot to have it there.
If anyone's traveling to the UK soon and wants to buy me a physical one and then hand deliver it to me, that'd be great.
Well, you know, if it's Derek's book and you were carrying it on a plane,
we can't trust the post.
Yeah, well, Derek's books just never could seem to make it overseas. It's like they're contraband. It's like bringing over, like, you know, Cuban cigars. They just get confiscated.
Well, I remember when I said every time I send stuff over to the States, it always gets bashed about. I think Derek said when he got his, like, the box was knacked.
Yeah.
And even Joey's box was knacked as well. It's like they just play football with it first.
Yeah, it's always so weird how sometimes that can happen and what have you. It's, you know, it's just one of those ones. It's just books. You shouldn't think that would be the hardest thing to send, but it never seems to work out that way.
Yeah. Well, let's dig into some indie comics.
Yeah, well, of course.
I feel like this chat's about to die from the way that you're coming through my headphones.
Yeah. Oops! Don't send that one. I didn't say to send that one. Well, it was like one of those ones. Of course, like the picture too is like, hey, we're about ready to send. Oh, there's a smaller one. Maybe if I would have just sent the small one, it would have been the easy thing to do instead of sending you the largest one I had. But
this is also true.
You know how those kind of go. Actually, real quick before we get in to the comics, I was kind of thinking doing a little bit of a user poll of whoever's listening to us right at the moment and whatnot. But I'm kind of thinking, brainstorming some ideas of like what might be some interesting topics to kind of come up because, you know, sometimes I know we sort of fall into our kind of casual conversations, and then next thing you know, you're like, hey, so I was playing this video game the other day and so on like that. But I'm almost thinking like, you know, what do people want to kind of hear about? Do you want to kind of hear about maybe some like indie comic book news mixed in with a little bit of even some of the bigger books too, you know, just comic books in general, kind of that kind of stuff, what's coming out, who's making some stuff, you know, I'm trying to think of like how to bring kind of more of the organization together, you know, even tips and tricks and ideas. I mean, that's sort of like what we kind of did today. We're talking about animation, you know, we're talking about various ways to market and so on and kind of pass it around, but I kind of wanted to, you know, almost in the sense, ask the audience to kind of go along, like, you know, what do you guys want to kind of hear more on? Or if there's anything out there that jumps out that's like, hey, you know what, this would be a cool thing to chat about on the comic books and so on, and go from there. I don't know, Craig, you want to throw your thoughts into that bad boy?
I'm still processing yours because you didn't tell us any of that bit.
Well, that was
forewarning would have been good.
I sent you a little bit of that message in there, but I was kind of thinking.
You sent me a thing saying, "What do you think we should do?" And I said, "Yeah, we did that before. Let's do it again."
Well, that's kind of
putting out suggestion box.
Well, let's put out a suggestion box. Sometimes I think you just gotta lay it on Front Street and see what happens. You know, just saying. I don't know if you got some ideas of what you think
If you have something that you think we should cover, drop us a message on @Indie Comics Club on Twitter, or just use our individual ones.
Yeah.
Either or is fine.
Yeah, there's that, or @Project Savior, or @Spencer S. Holmes. But yeah.
If your suggestion is to stop talking about the big two, nope.
Hey, you know what? I will say, like, I know I put this up there like it's for some reason some kind of disclosure to like our show, but it's like at the end of the day, comic books is already such a niche audience as is. It's like one of those ones like I feel it all kind of works its way together. It doesn't matter. You know, I feel, you know, if you pick a little bit of indie comics, you pick a little bit of manga, you got a little bit of Marvel, DC, you got Image, you got Dark Horse, you know what I mean, Oni Press and what have you. Boom, 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 boom. It all, you know what? It all comes together. There's barely anybody out there in a sense to talk about all this stuff with anyways. Why would you want to ostracize certain sectors of it?
True.
You know what I mean? But also, did you get the maroon picture? It finally went through.
Yeah, it's just come up. That's class.
See, I want just like it's a casual like something just happened. It's almost like it's sort of like there was like this 007 like opening, but we didn't see that part. We just got to the very end of it.
It just looks like he jumped into Pirates of the Caribbean and just sunk the Black Pearl.
Well, that's what I thought, because I was thinking, so like, dude, you know what would be cool? Is what if the Maroon had like a side story with like pirates? Wouldn't that be sweet?
That's also true.
I mean, I know it's kind of the 1800s, so it's a little bit kind of you're at the tail end of pirate kind of era in a sense. Not saying there's not. There's always pirates. I mean, we still have pirates today if you go down around like Africa and so on like that. Just be like that Captain Phillips movie or whatever. But in a sense, I basically that's a cool concept. It's something kind of different. He's in a different locale and everything like that. Just I wanted to go with something else, but that was that there. And yeah, let's jump into our indie comic book reviews. So, which one you want to go with first?
We'll start with Next Town Over, number 10.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed this one. I actually got really into it. I had me reservations about it. I don't know why. Because I'm not a big Western fan.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, okay. And like the first bit kind of confuses a bit, and then I was like, right. And then the more I got into it, I was like, actually.
Yeah, well, it's one of those
ones.
Like I kid you not, like if I see something kind of Western, I'm already kind of quickly sold. I'm not too sure if it actually will turn out to be something I like, but I'm always kind of like, oh, there's just not enough Western stuff out there, so I'm always kind of there. Gosh, I just now noticed this. I'm looking at the copyright. This thing's 2010, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been out for a while. But this is the nice thing, I guess, always about doing period piece type stuff is it's always going to age nicely because you won't really be able to tell, because if you did it like, and say this was at 2000, it took place in 2010, who knows what it, 10 years later, it might be like, oh, well, this seems kind of old now or something like that. But since it is, in a sense, a Western, you never know the difference.
I didn't see it. Where does it say 2010?
It was like right on the second page. I just saw it right there. It says copyright.
Missed that entirely.
But one of the things I really liked about this one a lot is it had really cool panel designs. Like that's something like the borders on them, they all kind of looked like almost like picture frames that you would see in like your great grandparents' house or something like that.
See, like you're right, but sometimes they're a little distracting.
Yeah, well, they do get a little bit detailed. And I will say this as an artist, I could see that being a cool idea at first. And then after you drew about 50 of them, I could see being like, gosh, I wish I would have just done regular black borders.
From like when it first starts off, it's a little distracting, but then they calm down. And then the panels just look like photo frames, which then it's fine.
Yeah.
Like I had no problem with it. It's just when it does the big fancy ones, sometimes it's distracting, but once they're back to normal, it's a cool panel design.
And I will say, even like
there are some really close panels in it throughout, especially when the fire stuff.
Well, there's that one that's like the first splash panel you get around page 4, where like they're burning this coffin, whatnot, sets up on flames. It looks like even like almost kind of like it's a witch because there's like this person that stands up, but like as there's flames burning up and just like taking over. In the same splash panel, it's the sunset or whatever, sunrise, whatever, and it comes down on our bounty hunter character. It's just like, that's pretty badass right there.
Yeah. It's like the art's tremendous throughout. It's consistent and it's strong all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how sometimes it goes from being picture frames to like it's like the outlines of playing cards.
Yeah.
While they're playing cards.
Well, they're playing cards, so it makes sense and so on. I don't know. It's just kind of, they got some real neat layouts in here. Like there's definitely, they put some time and effort thinking it about. The backgrounds look good.
Yeah. I definitely hope there's a second issue because I'd like to find it.
Yeah, well, because it's interesting because some of these things, because at first, when the bar gets all kind of set up on fire and so on, I just thought like, oh, he just did like a Gene Simmons type trick and just like spewed out some fire and it caught on fire. But then it's like, oh, wait a second. He's kind of got some fantasy powers going on here. And even like the bounty hunter character is kind of chasing after. Is she supposed to be, you think she's like a vampire or something like that?
I'm not sure.
Because her skin's very dark
It's more
gray.
like zombie.
Or yeah, maybe even a zombie, but like, because she gets blasted through.
Well, maybe it's not the zombie, but definitely undead.
Yeah, definitely something undead. The skin's very like kind of grayish.
Pale.
Yeah, when she gets blasted through, there's no blood. It just kind of like has like, black coming out. And she obviously takes that bullet. She gets shot in the wrist. So if you were a normal folk in the Old West, then you would never be shooting again past that point. But she can obviously handle it. So I'm thinking that that's what that character's supposed to be, is either, some form of undead, vampire, maybe even kind of zombie-like and so on. So there's a bit of a supernaturalness going on in this book.
Yeah.
But
it's definitely one to check out. Next Town Over, #1. Go and have a look.
It's fun stuff, good Western stuff. I look forward to seeing where they kind of go with it next. That brings us into our next book. Is we're going with Pixie Trix. And this one kind of comes out as a graphic novel, but we're going with, like, in a sense, the first issue of it in here and so on. And this was kind of an interesting one, too, because it does it sort of like, I mean, granted, when I saw it, it was kind of, I'm always sold for black and white artwork, you know what I mean? Like, no matter what, you always kind of go like, well, maybe I'm going to find some tips and tricks that I can kind of use in my own stuff and so on. And this one's even in, like, a sort of a sitcom-like style. It reminds me actually a lot of, like, did you ever read Strangers in Paradise by Terry Moore?
No.
That was like that book that, like, in the 90s, that would have been like the big story that, like, you could pass on to almost somebody who wasn't really into comics. Like, they might be kind of afraid of, like, Cable coming out with giant guns and a bunch of pouches and all that kind of stuff. But you'd be like, wait a second, here, check out Strangers in Paradise. It's kind of a fun, kind of almost even rom-com like esque story. It's definitely different. It's almost kind of like, even like a drama and so on like that. It's got amazing artwork. Terry Moore just always, that's like, generally, like,
they are.
I always solid. buy any of his books just because the artwork in general, just like whatever he's doing there. But it's kind of a cool one. It almost reminds me, it's a good gateway book to someone who might be a little bit afraid that if they're jumping into regular comic books, whether they be superhero or sci-fi or something like that, you'd be like, hey, here's this might be what leads you in with Strangers in Paradise. But that's the feel I sort of get in Pixie Trix, because it's like they have this like comic book shop and it feels like it's in the mall. I'm not too sure if it's exactly in the mall or like a strip mall or something like that, but the way that it kind of feels, because it pretty much in this first issue, it all takes place inside, I guess, the store, and they got this kind of comic book shop. It's kind of partially they're thinking about turning it into like a coffee shop too, that sort of throws off some of the other employees there and whatnot. And then they also want to start publishing comics at the same time. So it's obviously someone really just wants to be a comic book about comic books.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
Yeah, which, it's just like that. So it's just comic book about comic book shop business and publishing one. And looks like our main character in here, she's kind of coming in. She's looking for a job. Things aren't really going good with her home life. And then there's just like funny moments along the way and so on. But it's fun. It's got good jokes along the way. Even just some of like the comic book references and so on. They don't feel out of place or anything like that. It works in there. All the characters seem to kind of click. And it looks like this whole thing, I think there's a couple volumes of this out too, even. It just looks like, you're just kind of getting into some nice kind of easy, fun comedy comics, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A bit of drama and so on throughout there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of see where this sort of goes. I like just kind of the way it goes about it. And yeah, another fun one to check out. So make sure you go and you look for Pixie Trix out there, with her. And I think, hopefully you should be able to find these on Comixology and or Amazon or Indie Planet or wherever. There's so many places now, but if you look, you will find.
Yeah. If you look, you will find.
Then again, I will say there has been some comic books back in the day that I felt like I had the hardest time trying to find them when I went to go look up the information about them, though. So every once in a while, not everything can always be as easy as it should be, but yeah. But yeah, that kind of wraps it all up. So, other than these fine books, you should always check out our books. You got Project Savior, you got Pizza Boys. You can find that on not only our own websites, which will be in the links below, oldmanorange.com and projectsavior.co.uk.
Co.uk.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're on Comixology. We're on Amazon. Find us all there. Good stuff to be had. Once again, on Twitter, at Indie Comics Club. At Spencer S. Holmes, at Project Savior. Drop us a line. Shout out. If you got a book you want us to read, well, hell, we'll read it. We'll read an issue and throw it on the show, and have a good old time with it. So there's always those choices out there. But till then, I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
I'm Craig Johnson.
Hey, we'll see you some other time.
Bye.
Central.